Okie dokie.
Ish.
Welcome to No Instructions. I'm Bob.
I'm Josh.
I'm Josh.
Hello.
It was very low-key entrance into the show.
Loki.
Loki? How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Had to go to the dentist this morning.
Like people do.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
No, that's fine.
You're in the No Cavity Club?
No cavities. I have a broken filling. So they have to fix
Broken
it.
filling.
Like the filling came loose.
I've never had a filling, so I don't really understand. I have no frame of reference for what you're talking about.
Well, so when you have cavity, that means part of your tooth is missing because there's been decay.
Okay.
So
Got a hole in your face.
So they kind of chop it out a little bit, clean it out, get rid of all the yucky stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then they fill it. Thus the name filling.
What do they fill it with?
Like cream
Metal?
cheese, kind of whatever you want, usually. The ones that work and last are usually metal or some sort of a composite ceramic type thing. It's not ceramic, but
neato.
something like that.
Yeah.
Something that lasts for a long time. That's what they usually do. The cream cheese is like,
Cadaver tooth?
I don't think they do that. Although that would kind of make sense.
I don't know.
It might be more trouble than it was worth, though, because you'd have to make it fit.
Oh, yeah.
You know? You'd have to get dead tooth and then shave it down.
Is a tooth really ever alive?
It is. It has, the enamel part's not, but it has, wow, how did we get to this?
I don't know. That was meant to be a joke, but we just went down the honest path.
See, my dad was a dentist, and I don't know.
He'll be in here later, and we'll ask him about cadaver teeth.
Yeah, not that I ever really was gonna do that but it was like a thing I was always around. So it was funny because I went to the dentist this morning, which is now owned by my cousin, who's an oral surgeon, periodontist guy. But it's been my family there's been a lot of dentists. So I go in and I sit down. The lady comes in and she's gonna clean my teeth, and she's like, "Oh, you're a Claggett." I don't know which one you're from because there's like so many of us. She's like, I thought I knew all the Claggetts, but I guess I don't know all of them yet.
Which den of Claggetts you were brewed from?
Yep. Which clan? So anyway, I have to go back and I have to get a crown put on.
What's a crown?
A crown is where they take the tooth.
Not a crayon.
Not a crayon.
Okay.
That's what silly people say. They take a tooth and they shave off the outside of it a little bit, make it a little bit smaller, and then they put a hat on it.
Oh, okay. Like a cap.
Yeah. I don't know why they don't just call it a cap.
Because a crown sounds pretty regal.
Yeah. Mine's going to have some jewels.
I guess if you were going to charge somebody for something,
That's true.
and they were like, well, we got to put a cap on it. And they're like, oh, okay, that didn't sound that bad. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. Yours is special. It needs a crown.
Why is that $5 billion? Because it's a crown. It's regal. Yeah. So that's
Put your initials in it?
Ooh, I should ask.
Like-
So it is they have this new thing. It used to be when you got a crown, they take an impression with the gooey stuff in your mouth, stick this like sludge,
Yum.
like on a bite plate, and you stick it in your mouth and you bite down on it, and then you carefully take your teeth out of that, and then they let that dry or whatever they do to it. They make this.
Your dad's going to listen to this, and he is going to tell us during lunch every single thing that they do.
Yeah,
and it's going to be fun.
But so this is what they used to do. Then they would send that off to a lab. They would make a mold. They would cast the crown for the new thing that's going to go over the mold that they took, and then they send you that thing in a couple of weeks, and then you would go in and they would put the thing on your tooth, on your tooth nub. And in the meantime,
So because they make
grind it out.
They make like a tenon under your tooth?
Yeah.
Huh.
Just a little bit. It's not
Right.
like they turn it down to a little tiny thing, but they shave it off so it's smaller, so you can put this crown on top of it. And then I don't know, they glue it on, super glue, epoxy. I have no idea.
Well, Bond.
Well, Bond. So that's what they used to do. Now they have a milling machine in the office, so they take a digital scan of your tooth, stick it in the machine, little CNC cuts it your new tooth cap hat crown out of a little block of toothness. I don't know what it's out of. They cut it out. It takes like 2 hours, and they glue it on. You're good to go. So I'll be there for 2 hours, and I'll get a new tooth, essentially.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Could they give you the cut path and we could just do it here?
Theoretically, yeah.
Well, I'm getting, since we're on the topic of
Let's
teeth,
talk about teeth.
I'm getting Invisalign to try to help with my TMJ and to straighten out, some stuff that's there. And they did the same thing. They had this wand thing, and a lady scanned my teeth. And I was like, okay, well, you're going to give me that model, right? And then she looked at me silly and kind of ignored me. And then when I was checking out with the receptionist lady, I'm like, yo, and when do I get the model of my teeth? And she's like, oh, they're going to send it off and you'll get the trays back. I'm like, I don't want I want the trays. Obviously, I'm paying a lot of money for it. But like, no, I want the model of my teeth. And so she went to go get the dentist guy. And he was like, why do you want that? I'm like, well, because it's mine. And
Because I'm paying you a lot of money for it.
yeah, I want to get the most out of this. And I talked about it. I'm like, oh, we got a bunch of 3D printers. And he's like, really? And so he emailed me the models. And so I'm printing them right now on the resin printer.
That's cool.
Do it myself. I'll make my own Invisalign. We have a resin printer. We have a vacuformer. Boom.
The vacuum former, I don't think is a great idea because it wouldn't do the job. The
You would have to break up the
resin printer
model.
in your mouth is probably not a good idea.
Well, you would have
for
to
whole
break up
service.
no. You get the resin print.
I know.
You put that in the vacuformer under a buck, and then it makes like an offset, a protective offset of your teeth, and then it's true to my mouth.
I
But
kind of imagine the tolerance wouldn't be be effective enough to do the thing that you need it to do.
well, it wouldn't because it would just be of the current state of my mouth. So if you needed like a really
right.
a really specific mouth guard, then yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you wanted to like a GoPro rig that some people put in their teeth. I know a lot of scuba divers do that. So you could get a very specialized like camera mount. But you would have to like take that STL and break up each individual one of your teeth and then make incremental little adjustments and then vacuform every single one of those adjustments.
And also go to dental school so you had some idea of what you were doing.
Or like of how drastic those changes need to be. Because that would hurt, I imagine.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, I'll wear this one for a week and then next week I'll get my finals. And then you're in pain the whole time.
Yeah, it sounds like a bad idea.
Did you ever have braces or anything?
I did. I had braces. Did you?
No. We were poor. We didn't have braces. Braces were never in like a question because my father was in the military, so we had TRICARE, which is insurance technically, but like on military bases, you just go to the hospital. But I remember that dental care was only for the service member, so we had like private dental insurance, and my dad just went to the dentist. So there was never a discussion about braces. A bunch of people I knew in elementary school and middle school had them, but I mean, my teeth aren't that bad. They're
Yeah.
a little crooked, but it's nothing I haven't really. It's something I was never really self-conscious about.
Yeah. Well, when I was growing up, it was like it felt like everybody had braces. Like it was just a thing you did.
There was a rite of passage as a teenager.
Maybe, or I guess maybe everybody just cared a whole lot about what their teeth looked like, the parents. But now it doesn't seem to happen as much because I think people realize that there's some cases where it actually affects how you eat or how you talk or how your jaw works or something like that. But a lot of it is just making things making things straight that are crooked.
It's vanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
not
it's an
cheap.
expensive thing
Yeah.
to, I don't want to say it's all vanity, but if you don't need it, it's hard to justify that cost, I would
Right.
imagine. So we're at a point where our kids are all going to the orthodontist in preparation to because I think that's a big part of it. I didn't go to the orthodontist until I was ready for braces. Now we're taking our kids at 7, 8, 9 years old to see if there's something they can do to avoid braces. As their adult teeth are coming in, is there a bite guard or something you can put on to kind of just not have to deal with that? So maybe that's the way it's going. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a bite guard or something some kind of protective thing I have whenever I sleep is in the mix. Because my jaw locks up. And anybody who was at WorkbenchCon this past weekend, which maybe we'll talk about, I was sitting around a table and periodically my jaw will just lock up. It's like a 1/4 inch opening and my jaw just stops working. And I have to jam my thumb into the side of my head and push on that hinge.
Ugh.
And it kind of pops open. And so I was trying to eat breakfast while other people were having a conversation, and I'm like, then all of a sudden, just you're the Tin Man and your face stops working, and you need an oil can. So it's really inconvenient and it's kind
Yeah.
of painful. Sometimes it hurts really bad. And so someone had mentioned Invisalign before. So this will be the first step in hopefully trying to remedy that. And apparently it's supposed to make your teeth a little straighter too. So if it actually works, it'll be a win-win.
Yeah.
But I, like most things, whenever they're like, oh yeah, it'll fix it right up, I am very skeptical. So
Yeah, that's fair enough.
if it works, it works. If not, then
It
guess
doesn't.
I'll just have to be that way forever. Get a jawectomy.
Jawectomy. Well, I hope it works. I found out that I maybe don't grind my teeth. She noticed that there was wear on my teeth, and she was asking me if I, like some people grind their teeth while they sleep, or they clench their teeth really hard.
That is my least favorite question when you go to the dentist. Because things like I get asked that about my jaw.
Mine's about flossing. That's my least
Well,
favorite.
I mean, that thing, I think it's like, okay, it's time to guilt trip because they're cleaning your teeth. They know whether you floss or not. They can see.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, how often do you floss? Or like, I mean, you just put your fingers in my mouth. How often do you think I floss? But the piece, like, do you grind your teeth in your sleep? Like, I don't monitor myself when I'm asleep. I didn't know that I snore.
No, so the way that she said it was, do you recognize that you grind your teeth or clench your teeth while you're asleep? Like, do you feel that after the fact? And I said, no, I don't. She said, well, now that I've mentioned it, keep an eye on it and see if you can figure out when it's happening. Because you can't control it. But just now that I'm asking you, you may be more aware you wake up with like a tense jaw or something like that. And I probably do kind of clench my jaw more than anything else. But she wasn't saying it like, do you wake up in the middle of the night and realize that you're doing this? It wasn't like that. It was just, I can see some wear. So have you ever noticed that before, kind of thing?
Well, I think maybe with this jaw issue that I've had for a very long time, that's like the easy question that I think they're like, well, do you clench your jaw? And
like
if
the
I go,
first step.
yes. And then they go, well, maybe you shouldn't do that anymore. And then everything will be magically better. Or like maybe it's a bite guard, whatever kind of conversation. But that one, like it's been a problem for a while. And there's so many people that have had the same thing that have been through a huge range of treatment. Like I know somebody who got their jaw like purposely broken and like re-bracketed together.
Blech.
And like I'm tongue-tied. So some people are like, oh my God, that's why. And other people are like, that's not why. And so there's never been a real decisive way to like not have my jaw lock up in the middle of a meal or when I wake up. And so to go like, do you clench your jaw? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, maybe that's the problem. It's just like
That doesn't actually solve
that's
the problem.
the lowest.
Yeah.
That's the fruit that's rotting on the floor that you step over when you go toward the low-hanging fruit.
That's okay. Anyway, thank you for joining us this week on Dental Talk. We'll see you next time. Yeah, so I have to go back later on this week to get my crown, which is a bummer.
Do they put a dental robe on you when you get a crown? I'm thinking of all the other regal terms that they could upcharge you for while they're doing that
Dental
thing.
robe. I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of.
This is
Although
your-
I'll make sure I ask.
Your Slurpee talisman that we have to use.
This is your golden spittoon. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, so we went to Atlanta this past weekend.
It was not hot, Atlanta.
Nope.
It was temperate Atlanta.
It was chilly and somewhat damp Atlanta.
Damn Atlanta.
Went for Workbench Con. Got to hang out with a bunch of awesome Maker Alliance members,
Yeah, we did.
which was really cool. That was a lot of fun.
You know, one thing I really appreciated
What's that?
and was kind of nervous about, and then that quickly went away, is that we went with a very loose agenda. But the Maker Alliance members that were there actually like scheduled a dinner. Like we're the ones that were like, all right, we're going to go out to dinner. We're all going to hang out. And it was a great time.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I guess maybe we should have thought of that.
Schedules, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we did have a good time hanging out with them, going out to dinner and just chatting throughout the weekend and stuff. That was really cool.
A lot of people responded positively to this podcast, which was extremely motivating.
A little surprising, if I'm honest. I don't know why. It just... I
Because
think
we're
I
two
kind of...
guys in a basement playing with Legos?
Yeah, well, that's exactly why, yeah. I think I tend to think of this show as just like nobody listens to this. It's just like, it's a
And
thing we get
a
to do
silly
and it's
outlet.
fun and it's
Right.
a little thing, But I don't really think about, other than the people that actually do respond and say that they've listened to an episode, I don't think about there being the other people that listen to it but don't actually say anything. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So I was surprised to have so many people bring it up and that it's useful to people, and some people had some really nice things to say. So thank you to everybody. And I'm glad you enjoy it, because I enjoy it as well.
Speaking of things that you enjoyed,
Yes.
how did you... We went to an escape room. We left here. We left the house. We drove down there. We picked people up at the airport, or not the airport, but at the hotel, and immediately went. Like, we didn't see much of anybody.
Yeah.
So we did the escape room really quick. Some people reached out and asked if I was going to go do one. They have limited space. There were only like 8 slots, and we kind of had like 7 people. So we just kind of did one really quick before we went to the event. How was your experience?
It was great. It was a lot of fun. I had a really good time. I do think it was there were 8 of us in a room made for 8 people, and I think that was probably a little, maybe too many. Nobody specific, not the people, but I think 6 people would have been a good number for that. It was a little, maybe if some of us were short or smaller or I don't know, something, it just like, there was a little too much people person. That make sense? But it was great. I don't think that got in the way of anything.
Yeah.
I just think we didn't need that many people.
I think task-wise, there were not too many people. You didn't need 8 people.
Yeah, I think that's...
The workload that was required for that particular room was completely doable with 6 people. And so we did a prison break room. There was the 4 of us, me and you and Anthony and Forby. There was Jocko, who had never been to an escape room, which was pretty fun.
And he was super jet-lagged.
Yeah, he was jet-lagged like the entire trip.
The entire trip.
They're my buddies Donovan and Wes from the Making Geeks podcast. And one of our friends, Clinton, who actually won a ticket to Workbench Con through one of Donovan's like cool game things that he does. So we all went, and they split us up like into teams of 4. And then they locked us both in separate prison cells. And so we had to get out of our prison cells into a little like alleyway kind of thing. And we worked together, and then one of the walls opened up, and then we went into like a, I don't know, utilities like pipe kind of room. And then we got out of that, went into another room. So this was like a triple room escape room, which I had never done before. The max,
Yeah.
I always went from one place to another, and then you get out of that one. So by the time that the second door had opened up, they went through like this cool tunnel thing, which I thought was really awesome. And I'm like, yay, we won. And then we stepped out into like another puzzle room.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
I think that's part of why I enjoyed it more than I expected to, is because I was thinking it would be like you're in a jail cell and you have to get out and then figure out how to get out of that room. You know what I mean? I was expecting an escape room, not a series of rooms, so it was a nice surprise that it was a lot more
multifaceted.
complex than we expected.
It was pretty great.
Yeah, it was fun.
And actually, we won. We had, 13 minutes, I think, to spare. But Forby beat the room by accident. Because I was standing there and we're figuring all these puzzles, and then, you all kind of break up and do individualized tasks. And some people, because there were 8 when we really kind of worked with 6, some people kind of doubled up on things. And I was working on a puzzle, and then I heard yay, we did it. And I look over, and the little green unlock thing is open, and the door opens. I'm like, well, how the heck did that work? I'm still working on a lock. There's a lock that I'm seeing that's still locked.
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened there? And so the guy came in, and he was all excited, yeah, man, you guys did a great job. It was so cool. Hope you had a good time. And he's like, you guys did this without completing the entire room. And it turned out that the thing that I was working on that had a lock, led to another puzzle. But Forby had accidentally figured out that puzzle, so we just kind of skipped a step. And it was great.
Typical Forby.
He's an overachiever.
Being good at stuff.
Yep.
Hey, I'm done with my set. By the way, I'm
wow. I need to hurry
finishing.
up.
I just finished up the ISS, Lego ISS, which is a really large. Look at this thing.
It's pretty big.
If you're watching YouTube, then you can see how large this thing is. It is
About as long as your forearm.
yeah. This is a cool set. I'm impressed. I like this one. If you're not watching, you could watch.
But how, Bob?
You go, Harry Carey. You go to YouTube and search for No Instructions, and you'll find our YouTube channel for just this podcast. Look at this cute little space shuttle it's got. Yeah,
That's
look at
adorable.
that guy. Pretty cool. It probably sticks on here somewhere. I put away the instructions before I got to that. All right, so this thing is done. So I'm going to open up another set because look at this. I got another set.
Oh, wow. Ooh.
It's a Mandalorian battle pack, which is just some minifigs and a little tiny ship. But, what were we talking about?
Workbench Con.
Workbench Con. Oh, yeah. So
You like the escape room.
I did like the escape room. It was a lot of fun. Workbench Con was cool. I think one of the things I really liked the most about events like that is meeting people, new people is super cool. Actually catching up with people that I've met in the past and hearing how things are going is one of the more rewarding, but also there was something kind of sad about it this year, which was kind of interesting.
Okay.
There were a couple, and I don't want to name names because it's private business, but there were a couple of people who had pretty significant life events happen, negative life events, in the last year or even year and a half, 2 years, that I just didn't know about. And these are people I think of as friends.
Yeah.
And it's obviously stuff they wouldn't put on YouTube because it's not relevant and everything. But like, somebody was telling me something about their life and that they had lost something, and I almost started crying talking to them. And it dawned on me that like I should have known that. You know, I should at least be in touch with these people well enough to where either I'm just hearing about it through, you know, casual conversation, or they know that they could come to me as just a person that can listen or be there. But I have to, those relationships have to be living. They have to be ongoing. And I think that was the sad thing, that I was just like, man, I'm not doing a good job there. I need to be better at that. But it was also really cool just to hear about what people are up to, what they're planning, the stuff that goes on that people are excited about that nobody ever gets to see on YouTube and on social media and stuff. It was really cool. So I had a really good time.
So did I. I was stopped way more times than I thought that I should have been stopped by people.
Like the police?
No, that was only the one. But like by people that had really nice things to say. And it was really humbling. And about like the whole gamut of things, like about this podcast, which like you're saying, it's not that we downplay this podcast or we think it's some like C-roll type thing. Is it? I mean, we really are two dads talking about dad stuff while we're building Legos.
Yeah.
And I could think maybe we underestimated how relatable that is and how much other people may need something like that. And in my other podcast, there were a group of people there that really liked Making Geeks. And there were people that had nothing but amazing things to say about the new stuff that we're doing, the Between the Builds videos that Anthony's doing, and how there's a lot of personality. And the times where we've gone to like Maker Faire or some of these events when I go with you, it's everybody wants to see Bob because Bob's amazing. Everybody wants to see Bob. And then there's the people that are like, oh yeah, and Josh. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I mean, I do stuff here, but I don't feel that I rise to that level of appreciation that people have with you. And this time there were a lot of people that were very appreciative of stuff that I did not only hear it, I like to make stuff, but everywhere. And it was really crazy to me. And I didn't know how to take that. I mean, I was very appreciative, but it's still like I was going to the bathroom and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go over there to the bathroom, walk across the room. And I would see people like in a conversation, like turn at a weird angle when I would walk by, like very abruptly. And instinctually I went, that person is about to attack me and I need to be on guard, like some type of spy, like when the spy is being followed. And so like that person automatically stood out to me as some kind of
Like a threat?
like, yeah, weird, not even like a threat, but like that is odd. I need to be watchful of this odd occurrence. And then I'd walk back and they would do it again. And I'm like, it's go time. And they're like, oh, hey, I just wanted to say hi. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, people want to say hi to you, not try to attack you. So relax.
Maybe that's why that one guy thought you were scary. Because you like every time somebody walked by, you
I don't
would
know
go
what
into
that was
like
about.
Jason Bourne mode, you know?
We were having a whole bunch of conversations with a whole bunch of people, and I don't even remember who that person was, but they tagged me on Instagram and said I was scary or something like that. So maybe I should have attacked people.
No, it's probably best that you don't. Yeah, it was good. Any big takeaways? Like, I mean, other than that being noticeable for you, you know, was there, I don't know, anything you learned,
Well,
anything you didn't
I
expect,
had-
that type of stuff?
I had professional goals and then maybe I guess personal goals. Like my professional goals, there's a bunch of brands. There are brands that we kind of work with here. And so as the like project manager, I'm like, I need to go talk specifics and business deal related things to these 4 or 5 entities. And I did those. And so I think it was productive for me. I think personally, like people paid a lot of money to go to Workbench Con, and I didn't fully realize how much it was because we had a talk that we were doing, so we didn't have to pay for tickets, but we still got like a receipt like we did pay for tickets. And I finally got to see how much people paid for that event, and it was a lot. So personally, even though I am not a staff member at Workbench Con, I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but I had this personal thing that if there's anybody that came there and spent that much money, if seeing us or saying something to us was on their agenda, I want it to be worth their trip. Yeah. I don't know. I took that as like a personal goal.
Yeah.
And again, it's not because I didn't want Workbench Con to have a bad name. I just wanted people to get their money's worth. And so anytime somebody wanted to talk to me, which I thought was silly to begin with, like I wanted to sit down and take the time to do it. There were people that wanted to talk to me, or this one guy in particular that wanted to talk to me about full-time RV stuff. I got a message on Instagram when I was walking around doing things. I'm like, God, I don't want to talk about the RV. I'm like, nope, somebody needs some help.
Yeah.
They were brave enough to ask for help, then I'm going to sit down and have a real conversation with people. And there are a few things that I can speak expertly about. Like, I think we talk about that a lot. Like, we have no real authority on a lot of things. But if someone wants my opinion, then I want to be more than happy to give it to them because, I mean, they took it upon themselves to be brave enough to ask, which I think if I'm honest with myself, if there was someone that I really admired, if John Stamos was walking down the street, I wouldn't go, yeah, of course I would walk up and immediately start a conversation with John Stamos.
Tell me what it's like to work with the Olsen twins. That's what you would say.
I mean, geeking out one thing, but like asking, one person pulled me aside and wanted real feedback on some of their work. And I'm like, well, I don't think I'm an authority to be able to give feedback. And they're like, that person respected me enough. And I went, and I honestly don't think you really want my honest feedback because, you know, I'm kind of not nice sometimes. But they really wanted it.
Yeah.
And I think that as a person that, I mean, if I have any kind of knowledge or experience in working in anything that people are interested in, why not share that with people that care? And part of me is like, not only that care, but like paid a pretty significant price to come here just to ask us about drills or whatever it happened to be.
Right. Yeah. Oh, the camera's moving around. Hey there, camera guy. Oh, look at this. I turn around the little they're all falling over. Little Mandalorian minifigs.
So I had a good time hanging out with a lot of fun people. Some of them I have met for the first time. Some of them I've met a long time ago from before I was ever working here. It was a really good trip. I think the escape room was cool. I think, like most of these events, like the lobby kind of time was really fun. The event itself was pretty neat. I went to a couple classes. Sat in on Ann of All Trades in her class about passive income, and that was a real good one, which gave me a couple actionable items now that we're back. Mm-hmm. So I think all in all, it was a really successful trip, and I hope that other people got what they wanted to get out of it.
Yeah, I hope so too. You know, anytime there's a big thing like that, there are always issues. There's always, food, audio, seating type of, there's stuff like that goes with every conference. This one has it as well. But I do think that overall, even with, like the audio was just a problem in some of the spaces, but even with stuff like that, I think it was still really successful. So,
how do you think our Fusion 360 course went?
I think it went really well. We were trying to figure out how to present that in a short amount of time. We couldn't go super deep, but how to just use it to whet people's appetite. And I think we did that very well.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of fun that we were, well, I mean, in our space, like a lot of big name people like April Wilkerson, I know Johnny Brook, Izzy, to a lot of respects, like our SketchUp users. And the minute that they heard that we were giving a Fusion class, like a couple of them just kind of scoffed. They're like, oh, well, I use SketchUp. I'm like, well, yeah, I did too. I just watched one of my old videos this morning where I did a bunch of SketchUp models. And I went, well, there's always kind of one thing that SketchUp can't do, or a couple things that SketchUp can't do. And then when you make that jump to Fusion, like, it's pretty awesome. And so the course that we gave, you were very clear not to really mention SketchUp as something that couldn't and Fusion could, but kind of pointed out the capabilities, and a lot of people were really responsive to it.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think it's hard to make that distinction without mentioning it, but I didn't want to badmouth anything because that's not the point of it.
They were one of the like key sponsors, and they actually had a SketchUp class themselves that I was thinking about sitting in on.
It would have been interesting just to know. Yeah, I mean, somebody from SketchUp did come up and talk to me afterwards about it and thanked me for not badmouthing them in the Fusion class. But again, that's not what it was about. So anyway, I think the people that were in there, I think, got what we wanted them to get out of it.
Yep.
Not necessarily walking away knowing how to do everything, but being motivated by the potential, which is what at least I was thinking.
We got a lot of immediate feedback from people that were in the class that asked us a bunch of questions, asked me like very specific questions, not just like very broad, like, oh, that was good. Like it was, how should I do this? I want to do this. And I feel like I was able to give them specifics and like action items to walk away with. Mm-hmm. And then people have written me on Instagram since then with the same thing, like asking if I could look at their model, if I can, when, are we going to be able to offer a little bit more in-depth type training? So people were definitely responsive to it, which made me very happy.
Yeah.
Because I think it has a lot of value.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so that went really well. I kind of wish that we had had a chance to do it twice.
Yeah.
But we came into the whole schedule late, so we were kind of just lucky to be worked in, honestly. And then my single talk, I don't know. I guess it went all right. I have no clue because you couldn't hear it.
I couldn't really hear it, but you looked handsome.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I did have several people come up and say that they enjoyed it, but then I know that the vast majority of people couldn't understand what was being said. It was in this giant room in a convention center, like, I don't know, 3 stories tall or something.
Yep, big concrete room.
Big concrete room with loudspeakers on one side of it. So it was either not loud enough in spots or it was reverberated, so you couldn't actually, it wasn't clear.
Or if you're in the front, your eardrums were being blasted out.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to project a couple rows deep, and it really wasn't working that well.
Yeah.
Or it would just cut out. Ben Ueda and Mike Montgomery were giving a talk, and just the AV just quit working.
Yeah.
And you could just kind of see it in their demeanor.
It was tough. It's tough to be talking about anything and then you can just hear your voice disappear,
Yeah.
So hopefully that's something that they will get fixed up, because I had a couple people before I went on, they said, tell the people running it that you're not going to go on unless they fix the audio. I was like, well, I can't really do that, but, it was a problem.
Was there anybody there that you had met for the first time that was, I don't know, maybe rememberable? Or
Oh, I mean, there were a lot of people I met for the first time. There were, as far as like people who I had wanted to meet, who I knew of ahead of time. John Peters, finally got to talk
I
to
totally
him.
got to hang out with John Peters for a little bit.
Cool guy.
Super nice guy.
Yeah.
He figured out who I was after I introduced myself, and then we were talking, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I work with Bob, but I like to make, and he didn't let me finish that title, and he was like, you guys are doing awesome stuff, and from a very experienced professional and like authority in a lot of things, like that was really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I went up and introduced myself, and I didn't want to make an assumption. I mean, we've talked online, like through comments and stuff, but I don't want to make the assumption that people like know who I am. So I go up and try to introduce myself, and before I could get it out, it was the same kind of thing, using words that I won't use on this podcast, but it was super encouraging, Yeah, it was really cool. We ended up talking about like beekeeping, and I was thanking him for his bee videos because I learned a lot.
You had a lot of bee conversations.
I had a ton of bee conversations. A lot of bee conversations. Yeah, so we talked about that. We talked about mountain biking for a long time. Did I tell you about the mountain bike thing?
I don't remember.
I
don't remember a lot. There were so many conversations.
So he was telling me about, he mountain bikes a lot.
Okay.
And there's this thing, I don't know how new it is. It was new to me. It's called like pedal assist. And it's these it's not an electric bike, but it's like an electrical.
Like a helper?
Helper,
Okay.
yeah. And so it doesn't run on its own, but I guess there's some sort of a extra transmission type deal drops in when you're pedaling and the motor feels that you're having to work harder than you need to. It like assists the pedaling.
There's like a drop-in wheel that has, I think, that mechanism in the wheel. That you can do that to, like, you can add on to an existing bike. I think Tim Sway did something like that one time.
So a lot of he was telling me a lot of the big manufacturers, Trek and Giant and people like that, now have these. And the cool thing about them is that it lets someone who's not like a super technical mountain bike rider, just likes to ride bikes, go to places that they physically would not be able to really get through. So he goes up to Vermont and rides a lot. And there's certain times of the year where this terrain that he's on is unrideable unless you are like a professional.
Yeah.
And so this assist makes it so that you could take the family and go to Vermont, enjoy everything around it, and then as a family go mountain bike on this thing, you know. So it was interesting because it was not something I knew that existed at all. But anyway, yeah, talked to him for a while. That was really cool. Gosh, I'm sure there were a lot of other people that I had wanted to meet that I hadn't. So many conversations throughout the weekend.
Yep.
That it's really hard to keep track of who and what was said.
And I think
Who
for
was
me,
said?
this was the first time,
You know what
like I mentioned, like I would get stopped on the way somewhere. So like those little tiny conversations, like I don't remember who a lot of these people were, and I feel really bad about that. But I hope that in whatever conversation that I had with just about anybody, it was beneficial or valuable to them.
Well, one thing that I've learned over the years is that usually when you go to something like that or a Maker Faire and somebody stops you to say hi or thank you, they don't really expect you to remember everything about it or even their names. Because, I mean, I did run into people and I'm like, I remember your face. I remember us talking about blah, blah, blah last year, but I don't remember your name because I'm bad at that. And, you know, nobody was like, man, you can't remember my name.
I tried really hard. I remember I made it awkward one time that I was like, your name is George. And I'm like, I'm going to remember your, and it was like 10 seconds after we got to the hotel from the escape room. And I'm like, this is your chance to improve on this. And so the first couple people, I'm like, I'm going to try my best to commit your name to memory. And then someone else would say something and I'm like, whoop, and that's gone.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm like, well, so if you're listening, George, I remembered that your name is George.
Don't know what you look
know
like.
what you
but-
look like or what you do.
Yeah, it was good though. I mean, and I don't think that those people really expect you to remember. One thing that is funny though, so there's this family called their last name is Young, Junge.
Is that Brody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we met them for the first time at Maker Faire several years ago, and the two of the boys are like young teenage. I don't know their ages exactly, but they're young, you know, tween teen age boys. And when we met them, they were both boys,
Like
little
kids,
boys.
yeah.
And so I saw them, and then a year later I ran into them again, and they obviously look different. And then, so that's happened a couple of times. I've seen them at a few different events. So this time I'm like in the restaurant bar thing, getting some water, and I turn around and there's this kid standing there, and he looked familiar, but you know, I was just like, hey, how you doing? I remember you. And so I talked for a second, and he was getting some water, so I walked on, and then I walked out of the bar, and that family was standing there, one boy. And so I like walk up and I start talking to them, and they're telling me about all this cool stuff they make and what they're doing these days and everything. And then the boy that I met at the bar walks up and just joins the family, and I'm like, oh, you're one of the boys that, like, I just didn't recognize him.
He's a dude now.
In relation to this family, because he's just growing all the time. So I felt kind of dumb there. But I did recognize him. I just didn't know who he went with, you know? And then I figured it out when he walked over. But they're a cool family. They do a lot of stuff. I think the parents are like, they run their own production shop of some sort. And I don't really know what they produce, but the kids, the boys just come in and like do stuff in the shop with them. But it's not like go hammer some wood together. It's like the kids are running real
That's cool.
industrial tools. And they've made cutting boards, and they'll sell the cutting boards, and then they invest that in their own tooling for, like, they got a CNC. And so it's these two boys that, and their parents help with everything, but, you know, they're doing their own little business type deal within the greater shop that their parents own.
Sound like homeschool kids.
Could be. I have no idea.
There were a lot of people with channels that I had never heard of. And I think that was reassuring, because when we go to, I mean, over the years, we've been to maker fairs and woodworking shows and all these gatherings. And I remember thinking the one night when people came up and introduced themselves, channels I had never heard of, and hearing them talk about what they were doing and the success that they were having on YouTube. And I'm like, that's awesome. Because at one point, you and Ben Ueda and Brad Rodriguez and April Wickers, like you guys were sitting down talking, and you guys had mentioned that you guys were like the older generation, or you made some self-deprecating, like ageist kind of remark. And I remember thinking when I was hearing this newer channel I'd never heard of, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you came last year, I came the year before, and all the maker fairs, like, there's room for everybody.
Yeah.
There's people that are getting deals with these tool companies that are there that are the micro influencers that are going to become the bigger influencers. And I was really encouraged by that because there's a lot of people that may definitely were probably turned off by the price point, but channels that were really young, channels that were really experienced, like at that place, everybody had access to the secret sauce. And it was kind of like, well, who's going to be here next year that we don't know or have never heard about?
Right.
Like, and that's really cool because it's not some elite club. This one in particular had a price point, but it was open to everybody, and everybody is ripe for success.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool.
It is really cool. When we were sitting around that table, we were talking about it from the perspective of, like, we're kind of the senior class. Like, everybody has to go through the school, right? It's not that the freshmen are any better or worse than the seniors. It's just they're newer to it. And we were sitting around as this kind of small group of people who have been around doing this for a long time, looking at twice or 3 or 4 times as many people coming in the freshman sophomore classes that are like, they're doing it, they're working it, you know, and like, man, we're the old ones.
Look at them over there with their TikToks.
Yeah, I mean, that was exciting though. That wasn't like a negative thing for us either. It was just like, wow, it's so cool that this thing hasn't like died. That it's
it has legs and
Yeah.
it continues to go, and
Yeah.
it's expanding. And I think a lot of the brands there were acknowledging the importance. I went to the micro influencers class, which a couple people saw me in that class and kind of giggled to themselves, like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, I want to hear what these people have to say just as much as you do.
Yeah.
Because I want to, when people ask us specifics about YouTube or business side of it, like it's not the same kind of scale. Oh, I did that wrong in this model, but it still worked. Whatever. I kind of want to know what sponsors are looking for, because we have to abide by the same kind of rules that a lot of people have to abide by.
Yeah, totally.
And to hear, like over the years, like if you had a lot of subscribers, therefore you were beneficial or you were valuable to sponsors just because they saw a big number, they thought that was important. And then hearing, like last year, the year before, it's like, well, it's engagement rates, and this year it's more of a relationship. Are you going to represent our brand over the long term? And the attitudes of companies.
Sorry,
Shut up.
quite catch that.
Be quiet. Nobody's. It's no. Dumb thing. Anyway, like what they're looking at as a successful creator and brand relationship evolves.
Yeah, right.
And so when you walk into Workbench Con thinking like, well, I don't have the subscriber number that person does. I'm like, well, listening to these people, that may not matter.
Right.
So it's really interesting to me just to see over the years what people find valuable, both on the creator and the brand side.
Entirely different than that is I found some really interesting stuff about the people that came up and talked to us about things that were unrelated to making or whatever. Like, okay, so to give some context, on the way down, we're driving. I'm driving down. The guys are sitting around listening to music, play video games in the car, and talking and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I should have brought our Dungeons and Dragons character sheets so that we could actually make the characters while we're in the car, because it's 6 hours of sitting there. So Josh pulls out his phone, finds the character sheets online, and he and Anthony start building their characters, which was a blast. It was a lot of fun to listen to you guys make up your ridiculous stories and define all this craziness. Anyway, so we got there, and what was the couple's name that talked to us about
It's Nicole and Turi from When Geeks Craft.
Yes.
Amazingly nice couple.
Yeah, they seemed super cool. They immediately came up when I saw them the first time and just started talking about Dungeons and Dragons, and it was cool because they gave me a bunch of information I didn't have
Yeah,
before that, and we had just spent the time like going through the characters and everything, so it was kind of fresh. I thought that was really cool.
And it was fun because they are fans of the Making Geeks podcast, so they've heard me talk about a whole bunch of nonsense for many, many, many episodes. And when she was asking what kind of characters we were, when I told her that we were developing them, I was like, well, we had the 4 races to choose from. And she was like, there's way more than that. Like, oh, well, the thing that I saw, you had like Lord of the Rings-y style humans, elves, halflings, and dwarves. She's like, oh, no, there's way more. And she's like, well, what was your character? I'm like, well, what do you think my character should have been? And she rambled off this thing, and it kind of matched my personality. And I'm like, I didn't see that as an option. She was like, you need to go back and start over.
Really?
Yeah. She's like, you need to be at this thing. And she's like, and if you need some help, then they were like, just reach out to us, because her husband is a dungeon master and she was an ex-dungeon master, and they have D&D nights on this night and this night. And they're making a table, like a gaming table, where they can like take a thing out of the middle, and it has their, which I didn't fully understand, that D&D had a lot of like actual figurine style, like you can make like an environment, like a 3D printed miniature environment.
If you want to, yeah. I don't think you have to. But yeah.
No, well, she led me on while we were sitting there one day onto a website where you can customize based on your race and your skill set and your something else, forgive me, and it will like alter a 3D model in real space. You can choose the eyes and the legs and the equipment and the whatever, and then you buy that STL and we can print our own. Like super specific characters. And Ashley from Handmade with Ashley was sitting there. She's like, "Oh yeah,
I never got to say hi to her, Ashley. If you're listening,
She's super nice.
Yeah,
They were showing off all the like, here's this castle set that they had built, and it's like if model train people and like Lord of the Rings fans got together, there's a whole like market for this customized like interactive D&D play. And I was like, this is the geekiest kind of fun that we're having right here.
That's cool. Well, I didn't know about that part of it. That would definitely
Yeah,
be
Anthony made a character for me, and I made one for him. It looks silly. We do need to go back and start over.
Aww.
But
Maybe.
But our characters are really... And I was surprised, honestly, how much you were getting into it. Because she was explaining to me, she was like, a lot of this, the success or failure of your D&D kind of voyage is all pretty much on the Dungeon Master, because you set the story, you set the tone, there's so much stuff. And with our kind of personality, we're very pragmatic about a lot of things. We make things that have a purpose. And I was like, this is going to be fun. Of just like whimsy.
Yeah.
Art and story and nonsense. And then she was, I was supposed to be a bard, who apparently a bard is like a silver-tongued kind of person that can get out of a lot of situations by just like being very eloquent and loquacious and conniving.
You can't say loquacious to prove that you're eloquent, or vice versa.
I just did.
Anyway.
But anyway, and I'm like, well, that kind of sounds like me. And then I went, I have to not try to sabotage this game when we play, because you're going to like, oh, there's a hole. And I'm like, I'm going to do something different because I'm clever and snarky. Right. And she's like, there's a character whose job it is to be clever and snarky and do that. She's like, it's part of the game.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh.
But at the same time, the point, as I understand it, 0 playtime, is to have a good time as a group of people. Like there's not a competition to it. And even the Dungeon Master's job is to help that story continue to be fun for everybody involved, you know? So it's not like we're out to get each other or be the last one standing, that type of thing. But I think that's why I'm interested in doing the Dungeon Master. Like, I don't care at all about being a character. That's not, I mean, I would do it, but that's not really interesting. The DM position sounds a lot to me like being able to produce for the people playing. And when we talked about music production and stuff, it feels like being able to watch what everybody's doing and like, how can we make this more fun, and what can we add to it that they won't expect to make them enjoy the story and the thing adapt and change and be unexpected, or get straight down a path that everybody wants to go down. Like, so that sounds like a fun place to be from my perspective. But
well, there is a lot of physical infrastructure that we have the ability to create to enhance that gameplay.
Yeah.
But the table thing they were talking about, I got off of that. They were trying to figure out, and they were explaining to me this table situation and how they wanted this piece in the middle to be removable, but they wanted it to kind of fit perfectly, and they weren't really sure how to do it. And I went, you need to watch next week's video. And
Yeah.
I was explaining it to them. I'm like, this will make no sense to you right now. But I know they do a lot of work with laser cutters. They do a lot of like maps and with resin pours and laser
Okay.
cutters. And she actually said they bought a Glowforge. And so they do their stuff primarily exclusively on the Glowforge. And she said the very last order that they got that helped them pay it off was to Dan, the CEO at Glowforge.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I said, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, for real.
Dan's a nice guy.
Dan is a nice guy. Huh.
But yeah, there were a lot of people that were there for Workbench Con and woodworking and all that stuff. But I had probably the most fun geeking out about off-topic D&D stuff and silly things like
Escape rooms.
that. Yeah, there. Oh man, I apologize to those people that wrote me private messages and said that you wanted to do an escape room. I didn't know at the time when we were going to be getting into town. There was one I wanted to do, and it was scheduling and trying to wrangle the people that were going to be there.
And to be fair, we drove in, stayed in the car. People came out of the hotel, got in the car. We drove to the place, parked, got inside, and we were still late.
Yeah, we were a couple minutes late.
So it's not like we were waiting around trying to be secretive.
But I think if we do another big event like that, that more people are going to attend, maybe not like renting out an escape room, but like blocking off time for like a bunch of people to go and have a good time. Because a lot of them are meant for small groups. And so it's not going to be like the entire Maker Alliance is going to do one escape room. That's
Right.
like an escape warehouse. And
But the cool thing was that place had multiple rooms
Yep.
that were independent games. And so, you could book like a block or reserve a block and then have whoever shows up just gets that room and whoever shows up gets that room. That kind of
And that's the thing, like when you book it, if like the two of us were going to go do a room and it's meant for 8, there are still 6 potential open seats that strangers can join your escapade. Unless you buy out all of the seats, you're not guaranteed to have a very exclusive experience. And so even with the 8 of us, like if I were to reserve it at that moment, I would have had to pay the like $35 for all 8 people.
Yeah, right.
And I don't have that kind of change laying around.
Well, and
so
it would be kind of weird to go get in a jail cell with complete strangers and have to stick your hand down a toilet to find a key. Stuff like that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. So I'm glad we had people that we kind of knew.
yeah, I'm through experience, it has worked
I'm
with
sure it
complete
does,
strangers. But it does help that you have people that you kind of trust.
Yeah.
I think, and that you're semi-confident in their skills. And there were things that when we were in the room, like you're in it, it looked like a dungy, nasty jail cell. It was great. It had a real like jail cell toilet sink combo kind of thing. And I remember like telling everybody who's in our room, I'm like, you guys are smart. You guys are makers. Look around for electromagnets, reed switches, those kind of things, the components that you understand, that you know. So whenever you discover something, you can immediately go, this thing goes to that.
Yeah.
And so it helped with the timeliness of it all, but it didn't detract from the atmosphere that they put you in.
Yeah.
It was pretty neat.
It was fun. My hand did almost get stuck in the toilet though. Because I had to reach in there really far and get the key, and then it went right past the like widest part of my hand, and I'm pulling it back out. I'm like, oh man.
Local YouTuber gets stuck in toilet in an escape room.
Yeah. But
Bob Claggett to the stage. Bob Claggett to the stage.
all right, guys, we're gonna cut this toilet off the wall.
Well, it was funny because in one of the rooms there was a coat rack, and
Oh yeah.
our buddy Wes like takes the coat rack and just starts disassembling the entire coat rack, taking the little rungs and things off. And in most of the escape rooms, there's like a TV screen where you're being watched the whole time, and the person who works at the place is watching, and it would make this god awful beeping sound to get your attention. It was like, stop taking apart the coat rack.
They did that a few times with us.
We were, well,
Stop
I
taking
think by
apart the
nature,
things, yeah.
we are like going to go way deeper into
Yeah.
like the mechanics of something than we needed to, and we had to be scolded to stop almost breaking their stuff in the name of sport. But in the end, Forby kind of broke something and got us out early,
Yeah.
so it's a win-win for us.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a lot of fun. I don't know how long we are, but that's probably a pretty good place to wrap it up. You got anything else around this weekend? Any other highlights? Any?
I don't know. I'm positive that there are.
Yeah.
I really am I got to weld outside to kind of go along with some of the stuff that we're going to be doing in the future. I'm personally, excuse me, I'm not crying. My nose is
Don't
stuffy.
cry. Don't cry.
I am extremely appreciative of everybody that said that anything that we do I think especially this podcast, because I think this podcast, like Legos and model kits and whatever aside, like this comes from a real place.
Right.
Like the things that we talk about, we're not making it up. Like we're trying to figure out life and fatherhood and adulthood just like everybody else is. So to hear from people in a very maker-centric location that the fatherhood stuff or the relatability of the death episode or things like that really resonated with people, that was really, really kind of humbling to hear. And I appreciate it. And I hope that we continue to earn that place in your life.
Yeah, well said. I agree. So yeah, let's wrap this one up, and we'll do it again soon because we are kind of late this week, so we'll have to do it again for next week.
Yeah.
This week.
We got something special to do on this.
Yes, we have
special
things we
little table we made here.
This table. If you want to help out the show, you want to get on that Maker Alliance conversation, that stuff, go to iliketomakestuff.com/join. Still got to update that online or that on-screen URL. They both work. It doesn't matter. But that will get you in the crew, the Maker Alliance, and you get to see stuff early. You get to see exclusive videos from from all of us throughout the month. We all put up a video. Bunch of other stuff, free plans, discount codes, stuff, all sorts of stuff. Go check that out if you're interested, and if not, that's cool too. Maybe tell somebody about the show that you think might like it. Somebody who's into any of the random stuff that we talk about on occasion.
Yep.
That'd be cool. We would like for you to pass it around. We'd appreciate it. Where can people find you?
On the internet at Josh_makes_stuff. And my YouTube channel that used to be the PI Workshop is now just Josh Makes Stuff. Super simple.
Cool. You can find me and all of us at I Like to Make Stuff on all the stuff, except for Twitter where there's only one F. I mean, still I like to make
Better
stuff.
pronounce it right, too,
Yeah,
because we know we're listening.
Yeah. So go hit those social things if you care to, and if not, that's fine. I guess that's it. So thanks for watching, listening. See you next time.
Bye-bye. Where's the space toilet on this thing? They should point out highlights like that in the book.